Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's program, why the Texans signed Jalen Mills this weekend, plus what are the biggest areas of concern now after this signing, after the Texans' first preseason game? What are the areas of this Texans roster that might need still a little bit of fine-tuning? We'll get into all that on today's program, but hey, another weekend, another absolute slamming of the New York Yankees. I love nothing more than watching Jose Altuve absolutely demolish the New York Yankees every time he goes to Yankee Stadium. It seems like the boos just seem to empower him even more. So I am begging, pleading my bosses. I'm like, hey, I think people want this. I think people want Astros watch parties. So to prove to my bosses once again why we need to have some Astros watch parties, especially for the postseason, go down, like today's video. Like the show, 700 likes for the 7 runs the Astros scored up against the New York Yankees, so I can show my bosses, hey, we got to do some Astros watch parties because this team is electric. The city of Houston loves them some Astros baseball. I actually have our MLB guy here at Chat Sports, Jack Lotteray, pushing the 1s and 2s, so he's not in agreement that we need some more baseball watch parties here at Chat Sports. So if you want that, go down and hit the thumbs up icon. First up on today's program, why the Texans signed Jalen Mills, a versatile defensive back. And I have 3 main reasons why Nick Caserio, DeMeco Ryans made this move. First up, the injuries to the secondary. Obviously, there's a need for a guy like Jalen Mills to step in, namely because a lot of guys aren't playing on this Texans roster right now. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he's somebody who, even though we have a good prognosis on C.J. Gardner-Johnson, even though it was good news that he could possibly play week 1, he still is injured right now. He still is not able to practice, not able to play with the squad. This coming from Adam Schefter a couple days ago. Further testing revealed that Texan safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson's knee injury isn't as serious as it could have been, and it's not out of the question that he could be back as soon as the regular season opener versus the Rams. And I heard a lot of different reports that, hey, Gardner-Johnson could play week 1. He could be back for the season opener up against the LA Rams. For me, I think that's still too soon. I like the move of adding a Jalen Mills because that takes a little bit of pressure off of trying to bring C.J. Gardner-Johnson back too quick. I think whenever you try to do, play through injuries or, rush back from injuries, that's what causes re-injury. And I want to see C.J. Gardner-Johnson towards the end of the year. I'd rather save him for the back half of the schedule if it means we have a more close to 100% C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I'd rather him sit out maybe the first 3-4 games if it means he's coming back 100% healthy rather than him come back and possibly re-aggravate, re-injure that leg injury that he already had. But what say you? Should the Texans look to play C.J. Gardner-Johnson in week 1, type P for play, type R for rest? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So go down and scroll. Let me know your thoughts on if the Texans should play C.J. Gardner-Johnson week 1 up against the Rams. Me personally, I kind of already tipped my hat. I would say rest. I would say no, do not play him week 1 because even if he's close to that amount, even if he's close to, getting fully back healthy, we might not see Matthew Stafford up against the Texans in week 1. He's dealing with back pain. He's dealing with a back injury where he is needing, week-to-week help. He's day-to-day during Rams practices so far. So I don't want to risk anything happening to C.J. Gardner-Johnson week 1 before the season even gets going, right? I'd rather him be healthy and maybe play some of these other guys at the safety spot rather than risk C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But a reason why he might feel the need to be rushed back is because the Texans safety room is already thin. There's multiple other guys who are injured at the moment. Jimmy Ward is injured, has not practiced yet. Jalen Reed was having some good practices, got injured. Luckily, it was only a 2 to 3 week, recovery period. But that puts Jalen Reed where he's returning kind of the same as C.J. Gardner-Johnson right before week 1, and a rookie 6th rounder who has not gotten a ton of run with the ones. It's going to be tough to implement him as a starting option in the first couple weeks of the season. So that might be why they feel the need to rush C.J. Gardner-Johnson back, but that's why it's perfect that the Texans went ahead and signed Jalen Mills, somebody who is a veteran in this league, a veteran presence, and I think is going to be a really good presence in this Texans locker room. Listen, he's a 9-year NFL veteran with a lot of starting experience. He won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles that 2017-18 season. He was part of a championship squad. And I think he plays with that S.W.A.R.M mentality. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. He's a little bit smaller in stature, but he has that same kind of chip that we see out of Jalen Petrie. And I really would like to see Jalen Mills be implemented in multiple different spots as a backup depth guy, because the Texans, maybe their worst depth on the roster is actually in the secondary. So when you have a guy like Jalen Mills who can play around in multiple different spots, it really helps you. The past 4 seasons for Jalen Mills, he played this past year with the Jets. The 3 years prior, he was with the New England Patriots. But decent numbers, right? This past year, 6 pass breakups, 1 interception on only 9 games played, a 52.4 completion percentage when targeted. That 2021 year with the Patriots was maybe his worst season as an NFL level, safety, cornerback, wherever you want to put him. But I think he's still a valuable asset. And he's not going to be somebody who's going to be an all-star, somebody who's going to, come in and be one of the best safeties in the league, but a spot starter, somebody who you can trust on, filling in for a couple weeks here and there. I think he's a very good option for this Texans team. And that leads me to the last point. He's a versatile player. He can play all over the field. The Texans signed him for safety depth, but he can also play at the corner spot. He can also play in the slot. He can also play at the free safety position. He has played all over during his NFL career. Here's his career snap counts at the different positions per PFF. Cornerback, over 3,600 snaps. Inside the box, 979 snaps. As a slot corner, 784 snaps. Free safety, 595 snaps, and along the defensive line, 136 snaps. So he has played all over the football field, which is exactly what this Texans team needs. If they need him to play a little outside corner or help out at that position, he can do that. If they need him to play at the free safety spot, he can do that. Or play in that slot nickel role kind of Jalen Petrie does. He can do that as well. So he's a nice mix and match piece where you can put him all over the football field. I really like the signing of Jalen Mills. I think it's a smart one, and I think it's one that really adds to the depth. We've been looking for somebody after the Texans signed Ronald Darby this offseason, and he ended up retiring. They've been looking for that veteran presence that they can bring back into the locker room, and they did it. Arthur Mollett, Damon Arnett, these guys they signed. I don't think it really gives me a ton of confidence, but I have a little bit more in Jalen Mills rather than those other 2 guys adding to this Texans secondary depth. Now, coming up in just a moment, the Texans' biggest needs after this signing. What are the biggest areas of concern on this Texans roster? I'll get into that in just a moment, but these Texans jerseys are selling like hotcakes. If you want one before the start of the NFL regular season, go down right now, chatsports.com/Texans jerseys. Find you a Texans jersey to get outfitted with before the Texans face the L.A. Rams in week 1. If you want a Stroud jersey, they have all shapes and sizes, all colors available. Maybe a Will Anderson Jr. jersey, a Jalen Petrie jersey, all of them available right now. Go to chatsports.com/Texans jerseys. A lot of them under $100 for right now. So go check them out on that site right here. I'm going to put that link in the comment section and description of today's video. It's chatsports.com/Texans jerseys. All right, let's go to the Texans' biggest needs. And the number one need for me would be offensive tackle depth. I think we're good with the starters. If Cam Robinson's able to come back, I think we're good there. He's left tackle, and then Ariante Ursary is right tackle. If he's not good to go, they're going to move Ariante Ursary to left tackle, and then they're going to bump Titus Howard out to right tackle, and I think we're okay there. But in terms of depth behind them, it was a rough day for the backup tackles up against the Minnesota Vikings. Blake Fisher had 31 snaps. Zach Thomas had 34. Austin Deckles had 31. And all 3 of these guys, I think, struggled throughout the day. Going up against the Vikings, backup pass rushers, they were getting worked multiple times. So I think that could be an area where I know we're all still kind of holding out for Blake Fisher. Maybe they, say, hey, we still have him on the roster and we'll have him break class in case of emergency if we need another tackle. But if they look to sign another player, I think offensive line would be the first place I would look. What do you think? Do the Texans need to sign another player this offseason? Maybe trade for another guy? Give me a yes, give me a no down in the comment section. Do the Texans need to continue adding to this roster leading up to week 1 up against the LA Rams? I'm going to stick on the offensive line because I think the interior offensive line is that next kind of step where I'm looking at the depth there, and I'm saying, hey, if the Texans want to add somebody, that might be another spot that they can look to add. Even though I will say it's much less of a concern for me after the Texans and Vikings preseason game because I thought a couple of these backup guys actually played really well. I'm going to give Juice Scruggs his flowers. I think he played well up against the Minnesota Vikings. He was with the first-team offensive line that drove the ball right down the field and scored a touchdown with Davis Mills. The run game was cooking. Scruggs was doing really well in this new run concept by Nick Caserio. He was able to get to the second level, get to the linebackers, and give some running lanes to Daria Gumbawale. And same could be said for the starting guy on the right side, Ed Ingram, with a couple of guys sitting out, Titus Howard, Laken Tomlinson, Cam Robinson obviously was out as well. Ingram started at that right guard spot, and he was actually the highest graded Texan according to PFF. Now, take those numbers with a grain of salt, but Ed Ingram, Juice Scruggs as the backup guard options, maybe the Texans don't need to add a guy on the interior, but they are number 2 on my Texans' biggest needs just because it's still a little bit up in the air with those guys. And the last one is going to be the corner depth. The Texans added Jalen Mills, who's, like I mentioned, does both. He's a safety and a corner. But I don't like running it back with certain guys. I thought, D'Angelo Ross had a very up and down game up against the Vikings. Jalen Smith, I think he looked good. The rookie out of USC. Behind them, Traymon Smith was okay. I don't really see it with Damon Arnett. I don't really see it with Arthur Maulet. Miles Bryant had a decent game, but if I'm looking at another area of concern, I could see the Texans looking to maybe add another corner to help in that depth department. And shout out to my guy, Mr. Invisible Texan. He's a really good follow on Texans Twitter. He actually shared the same sentiment. He said if the Texans are looking to add depth at the CB position, the 2 names he would look at, Rasul Douglas and Emmanuel Mosley. And I wanted to put it up on screen because I actually agree. If they're looking at adding a depth piece, a backup corner spot, I think maybe a little Rasul Douglas might be holding out for a starting spot, and he won't get that with the Texans. But Emmanuel Mosley, also previously played under DeMeco Ryans, could be a decent option if the Texans are looking to add more depth to this secondary. And I think the roster is actually one of the most talented in the NFL. They have a lot of young superstars. Will Anderson Jr., Derek Stingley. They have Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock on the defensive side. They have a lot of talent. I mean, sans the Texans offensive line, this might be one of the most talented rosters, if not the most talented roster in the NFL, excluding the Texans offensive line, obviously. But the main concern I have at this point is depth for multiple positions, offensive tackle, guard, and cornerback being the main 3 that I have in mind. Now, that's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you want to hit me up on social media, you can do so at Jeremy Chuggs on X, at Jeremy Chuggs on TikTok and IG. You can find me at Texans Today CS.